Cheers, guys. This is to all of you for hanging out with me for 3 months now, as we've interviewed amazing people about their stories of success, the doubts that they overcame, the journeys that they went on to build their dream careers. So I wanted to invite all of you to go pour a glass of wine, cup of tea, water, whatever it is, your beverage of choice, because tonight we're celebrating the last episode of our first season. We're going to be coming back in January, and we're going to be doing a lot of cool things in December too, but taking a little break from the interview style. So I figured, why not, send things off with an interview focused on making wine. And not just making wine, but making dreams come true. Our guest's story caught my attention because she was told no many times. She was told, you know what? You are too young to launch your own wine brand. You won't get it in all those stores. Well, about 6 states and 3,000 stores later, she is quite literally crushing it. She's a third-generation winemaker, and her wine is called RedHead wine, which is always really fun. It's got a cool label, and I am a sucker for a label buy. Like what I just poured right now is called Paso Dragon. It's a Paso Robles wine. And here you go. See, dragon. And we all know why I picked a wine bottle that had a dragon on it. Because this whole series is dedicated to slaying your dragons. You need to slay your dragons before you can ever find your fairy tale. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is how to build a business from scratch in the face of doubters, follow in your family's footsteps, because that's where your heart is. And we're also going to be discussing kind of the magic mixture that it takes to make a delicious glass of wine, to make a delicious meal, a perfect book, all of those magical ingredients that can be done over and over again in slightly different ways by each individual. So I'm just waiting for our guest, Marisa Sergi, to join us. She's going to request to join our live show in just a moment. And what's great about her too is she puts her whole journey out there. She puts her journey out there and talks about, what's going on behind the scenes. She'll take you into her actual winery, show you the barrels. She'll ask you, hey, what are you looking for? Marisa, I see that you're here. Hi. What you need to do is say request to join, and then I'll let you in, and we can raise a glass to all of your success, and then pick your brain for everybody that's joining us now about how you made it all happen. There you go. View request. Go live. Hello, hello. So it's super exciting to bring it kind of to a close for this season with you, Marisa, because
Hi.
you are a boss of wine in your own right at a very young age. I'm impressed.
Thank you. It's been quite the journey, and definitely excited to chat through some details today and everything in between. So,
Yeah, so let's start with your family's history and what drew you to making wine in the first place. I love the notion of anything that makes you kind of exhale, whether it's a great cup of coffee, a delicious tea, a glass of wine. We're all so busy, right? So something that makes us go, let's stop. But what was it
sure.
for you? Your family had always been in the wine business.
Yeah, it really was a little bit of everything. Of course, it was my family. From a very young age, I was very interested in just being part of my family and everything, getting involved with things that they were doing, even though I was a little young. I have a lot of memories helping with the grape harvest during the wine harvest season, which is in the fall, and tasting the fresh grape juice from the press. So it was something that always piqued my interest, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I discovered that there was a major out there that you could study winemaking for 4 years. Then I thought, well, may as well take an interest of mine and a potential passion and see where it goes. And I instantly fell in love. So it's kind of how I got involved in the wine industry
What
from
made you
there.
fall in love with it? What was the excitement of it? Was it the taste, the recipe, the experimentation? What drew you to it?
Really just the comfort of it being a family tradition, and it was something that brought a lot of my friends and family together every year. And every meal that we share always has wine for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that I really like to have because I'm very passionate about food and wine. Well, food in itself and the experience, and knowing that wine brings people together was something that I was interested in maybe having part of my actual career rather than just having it as part of my personal life. And of course, the taste is great, but really that passion and bringing people together is
The
something that
moment.
really.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's almost exactly what I was saying about that moment of like pause and also coming together because you can sit down and enjoy that meal, enjoy that glass of wine and have a good conversation. Um, when you decided to launch your own brand though, you were met with some doubters. They said, "Okay, hold up. It's a crowded market, right?" And you said, "No, this is my dream. Sure, it's crowded, but what made you so sure that you wanted to dive into this challenge?"
It was something I just couldn't stop thinking about. I certainly had a lot of doubts. I had to pack up my life that I just started out in California to move back to Ohio to launch the business because I had distribution agreements available and other ways to get into the market, which is really hard to do in the first place. I had to leave the friends I made behind and just start over again
Yeah.
and leave an amazing job. So there was a lot of not concerned per se, but like I really had to give up a lot of my personal life to pursue this, but I just really couldn't stop thinking about it and knew it was worth the risk. And um, I certainly was confident because I knew a little more than the average person when it came to the industry because I studied it for 4 years and I worked for an amazing company that helped prepare me for wanting to enter into the crowded wine space. And I had a lot of training while I was studying at college to launch a business by entering in business plan competitions, understanding how to go to market strategy, how to position your brand to be something of interest in a very crowded market from not only a retail perspective. So say I'm pitching my brand to a retailer, it's a very different conversation to have on why they should have a red blend in a very
Mhm.
crowded market and how mine is unique and why they should have it on their shelf versus that conversation I have with the consumer who enjoys the wine too. So, learning to have those conversations gave me confidence that I can make it work. And thank God I figured it out because I would have been in a lot of trouble. So,
It's funny that you say that because you explained it as a feeling where you couldn't stop thinking about it. And I think that that's a repeating theme with all of our guests and certainly something that I've experienced in my life where when you have an idea that won't go away, even if conventional thinking tells you maybe it's not that wise,
mhm.
you can't help but do it. And that's probably what steered you into a successful place. You say, thank goodness, it worked.
Yes.
But it's because do you feel like you were made to do it? And how would somebody who doesn't really know what they're made to do identify those feelings? What should they look for?
I think it's just your gut feeling. I know it's kind of cliche. A lot of entrepreneurs say like follow your heart and your gut feeling. It's so true. Like you just know if someone's lying to you, or you just know if it's a good decision or a
Yeah.
bad decision. Sometimes you can be a little blinded by what you really want than what is actually reality. So you have to be careful sometimes, but really following your own intuition and of course reaching out to people in the industry. LinkedIn is an amazing resource. I preach it all the time. Instagram's great. Social media allows you to connect with anyone in any facet of the universe here. So there's a lot of resources. So if you don't have that natural intuition, you could certainly be genuine when you're reaching out for help, and you'll certainly get somebody to listen. You might get some rejection along the way, but you could certainly find someone that could help guide you as well.
Give you some advice. Yeah, what's interesting? I think a lot of people forget that LinkedIn is much more than just a place to post your resume and search for a job. It
Oh,
really
yes.
has kind of mirrored the interaction of other popular social media platforms. You can provide content, you can share videos, you can kind of build your brand that way too.
hmm
What would you tell somebody in terms of how important it is to make sure that that's in the mix when they're making their plan?
I mean, I built my business on LinkedIn. Certainly, just slowly sharing my story and continually building upon that story with the audience I have, but bringing more into the mix. And if I'm looking to grow in a state, I'll add people in the industry from like the state of Tennessee, I recently did, or the state of Pennsylvania. And once you start like organically networking on LinkedIn and figuring out maybe this connection's great and you naturally reach out or they interact with your post and it just builds that relationship from there. And I mean, I've grew my brand in a new state very aggressively by using LinkedIn recently. So I certainly suggest taking LinkedIn so seriously. Post only when you have something excellent to share. Attention is very costly. So the fact that when you post, people know, okay,
It's of value.
Marissa, yeah, Marissa's usually posting something that is very interesting or relevant. I'm not just posting something that is how do I put it? I'm not just sharing an article because I thought it was interesting. Like I'm sharing a story that's compelling. I'm
Hmm.
sharing something about my company or my team or a new milestone. I'm not sharing like all the little things. I'm only sharing the big
Right.
things or like a little action that made it big impact. And that makes such a difference because now that I post something that I get a lot of, momentum and it certainly helps. So definitely take it seriously.
You also post on TikTok, which I think is a little unconventional. I mean, it might, for a business to you used your story of fighting to get in stores and build your brand as a more general inspiration. And I really like that. That's also one of the reasons why you got my attention because it became not just, a woman building a wine business. It became a woman who's encouraging others to follow their dream,
Hmm.
whatever it is, when people say no. How
Yep.
did you overcome the doubt and the people who said no? Did you lay there at night sometimes and say, "Oh gosh, what if they're right?"
Yeah, I certainly had my doubts. It's very natural to always have that, but um, there comes a point where you just have to find that courage to go and realize that there is a high chance you're going to have someone that mistreats you or rejects you or says no. But there is that possibility if you try that someone does support you and does say yes. And I have built my business with that attitude, just putting yourself out there, um, knowing that rejection's a natural thing. And once you build that momentum and it's like a snowball on the top of the hill. It's really small. Once it keeps moving and moving, almost like that cartoon, um, the Bugs Bunny and the
It gets
what's
bigger and bigger and
yeah,
bigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It goes down the hill. So that's kind of like what I've done. And um, it's scary. It's so hard for me sometimes to go into a store or have a new conversation because I really want an opportunity, but you just kind of go in with it with confidence and you're just fine. So
So you have to believe. You can't go, "Oh, they're not going to want to buy this."
exactly. If you are selling something that is not of value, you're going to give off that energy. It's not going to go well. But if you actually believe because it's the truth in what you're doing and there's real data and facts behind it, then yeah, it's going to be fine. But if you're selling a refrigerator that isn't going to work, but you just need to make that sale, yeah, it's not going to go well. So it really has to be something you're giving a value because you're selling the value to the customer. You're not selling the product to make a dollar. It has to be a equal value exchange or it's not going to happen.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. You have to in this day and age there's no such thing really as just a product anymore. You're selling an idea, you're selling a belief system, you're
Yep.
selling a feeling. And what would you say is the feeling behind Redhead wine? I mean, I you're not in Florida yet. We will I'll try it when it's here. So you have to tell me what the vibe is around it because it looks like a fun kind of feisty feeling.
Definitely. It's very sweet and very spicy. It's just it's full of just the brand is very colorful and kind of what you want to make it, but definitely the taste profile emulates that as well. It's very smooth and fruit forward, very velvety, full of blackberries, blueberries, cherries, and a little bit of cinnamon. So really wraps up that redhead personality in the profile.
When did you know you had something special?
Um, when I pitched at a business plan competition and the senior vice president of Constellation Brands in Canada told me that he thought I had something unique. And then I was like, okay, I'm 20 years old. I have someone that's been in the industry for 3 decades telling me I have something decent here. So that's what really gave me the fuel to keep going because I knew he was giving me proper feedback at the time.
And that was enough it's like the validation that you needed, you know?
Yep,
I think
yep.
that's so hard. A lot of us, you know, we have this big dream and then we say, well, what if I'm crazy? Am I as crazy as thinking, well, why can't I be the one who wins the lottery? You know, why can't the winning ticket be mine? And it's so hard, don't you think, to discern what is ambition and is tangible ambition and what is like the crazy pipe dream?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge because you don't want to keep going and waste your time and just wish you quit and tried something else and it worked. But sometimes it does take a while. I mean, it took
Patience, yeah.
me about 4 years to really get true momentum. I was
Wow.
always going in the right direction, but now the strategy for the business has been perfected. I have raw data that shows year over year growth and how we could sustain it in diverse markets. It's great to have one market or two markets that's doing well, but if you have a large range of things that are going well and you have the facts to back it up when it comes to the analytics that the retailer is looking for, it certainly helps a lot when you're trying to expand to new territories, which
Yeah.
to be a wine brand that has achievable goals in a future, you need to have that momentum or it's only going to go so far.
You know, when you think about pushing a brand versus selling a book or selling a painting,
Hmm.
um, how much of your heart and soul is in this company? Is this your passion? What if you hadn't been able to do this? Would you always have regretted it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I left the great job I had at 20 years old. I didn't want to be 80 years old regretting my life that I didn't do something that I actually wanted to do. I didn't want to live in fear, so that's why I completely quit my job, moved 3,000 miles back to my childhood bedroom in 2016, and I put every penny into my company. And now, a lot of people take a look at me that I'm 27 now and things are going really well, and they think it's an overnight success. Like I struggled so hard and I had passion to keep going, but I also had to surround myself with mentors that knew what they're doing. So if I was making mistakes or I was ignoring a really important fact of the industry or certain conditions that are super important to follow in the wine industry, if I missed them, I learned from them or I understood what direction I had to go for next year because this industry has a very specific cadence, a very specific language. So as someone that never really was involved in distribution before, and I was
Hmm.
only 22 years old to pursue that, it was very difficult. It's a huge learning curve, but you have to have the passion for it. But after the passion burns out, because it's very challenging, it's very exhausting, you have to have that perseverance and that determination to keep going no matter what you're actually feeling, because there's going to be a lot of highs and a hell of a ton of lows when you're starting something, when you don't have any history or any like facts you can show these retailers. They have to give you a chance. So you have to have that fire and fuel, but also know what the hell you're talking about so you get that chance. So it's a little bit of mix of everything.
I love that you said that, you know, once the passion burns out, because I think there's a misperception that if you follow your dream and you follow your dream job, you're never going to get burned out. But, you know, a job's a job and
Hmm.
fighting, you know, running into walls and climbing up hills is always going to take a little bit as
Yep.
much as it gives. So, what's your advice on how to refill the tank when you hit those moments where you're like, "Ooh, this is not the big, fun, joyful adventure I thought it was going to be every day"?
I mean, you burn yourself. Are you there? Sorry, I think your internet.
Yeah. Yep. It blipped for a second, but
Sorry.
you're back.
Um, okay, we're back. Okay, anyway, yeah. You can't burn yourself out. There's a huge difference between productive and busy. Busy work is just feeling you have to be working all the time, 24/7, doing everything you can to put whatever for your business to be successful. But you want to be productive instead of busy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get all you need to get done for the day in 6 hours, that's great. You don't have to work 12 hours, 14 hours to be this crazy successful entrepreneur. But there will be days where you are putting 14, 16, maybe even 18 hours, depending on what's happening, into your company. So you have to have that balance, but also understand that you need breaks too. You can't be a machine. Like there's all these great stories about these entrepreneurs that don't eat, don't sleep, and live on energy drinks and all this crap. Like, you need to do what works for you, but you also have to be very tactful and have a plan to execute. If you don't have a plan and it's rolling with the punches, that's not necessarily what's going to work. I mean, it can, don't get me wrong, but if you are organized and have an end goal, you just gotta find out what path you need to take to get there. So definitely suggest kind of all of that into one little mix.
Yeah, to keep it balanced.
Exactly.
What's the final fairy tale for you? What's the happily ever after? If you're living your dream career, how do you want to develop more wines? Do you want to have more wineries? Do you want to be in every store across the world? What's the big dream?
Definitely being national. So I'm currently in several states right now. I plan to add probably, depending on the market, maybe 3 to 4 states a year. Maybe next year might be a little slower because I'm adding a large warehouse to produce more for
Okay.
the demand. So we're gonna have a little lag. But after we have our new manufacturing facility, I'm really planning to be into like 15, 20 states and then really expand national. But I really want to sell internationally as well. So I did file some trademarks over the last couple weeks in a few countries. I'm not gonna say which ones yet because I don't want to put out too many spoilers, but we
Yeah.
definitely have a huge ambition, and I think it's kind of funny of how a lot of industry professionals in the last couple of years view my company kind of as a joke or think it's not going to go anywhere. But um, I can't emphasize enough, like anyone watching, like if people think you're an underdog and ignore you, oh my God, love every second because you're going to work so hard. And then once you become their competition, it's too late. That's why when I'm mentoring someone, I take everyone very seriously. I try to give them the best advice I can because sometimes you just need that support and view yourself as that underdog. So you'll always have that advantage where you're going to sneak up on them and they won't be able to do anything about it because you have such a presence at that point. So, um,
I love that.
yeah.
It's like that underestimate me. Go ahead and underestimate me. That'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely
Just come
been
from
great.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any funny mishaps along the way? I mean, making wine from scratch and starting a winery, and yes, you had it in your family for years and years, but were there any times where you were like, "Oh no, what is happening right now?"
Well, I mean, there are a lot of incidents along the way that are certainly crazy, but I think the most public thing I shared on TikTok, I
Yeah.
think got like 93,000 views. We used a new enzyme in our wine tanks to help encourage a healthy fermentation, and it supported the fermentation a little too much, and we had a wine explosion just everywhere. I mean, the tanks, I think we lost like 400 gallons, which isn't a whole lot, but it looks way worse than it was. But it certainly was chaotic because the entire um, right corner of the manufacturing facility had to be completely just stripped down and washed from ceiling to down in the grates because it was just everywhere. Think about just like a purple monsoon. That's
Oh
what the
no.
wine room looked like. So you might want to check out that video on my TikTok because it's pretty entertaining. But it's all good. We learned our lesson and has not happened since, thank God. But definitely a chaotic moment
Yeah.
for sure.
I feel like there's definitely a life lesson in there. Like, don't let things ferment for too long or you will explode.
Or just kind of let things take its run its course and don't speed it up. So
Yes, I like that, and it's all right. You learned how to even the basic functions of crushing grapes from your dad and your grandfather.
mhm.
What was their advice along the way when you were younger and as you grew up in terms of pursuing not just that business but pursuing your dreams? Different generations have such different outlooks on it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they definitely took the conservative approach. My father certainly supported me, but he definitely wanted me to have a formal education, work somewhere else, didn't want to go straight in the family business, which I actually didn't do either. I started my own company, which was in conjunction with the family business. I used like some of the resources, but I certainly funded everything myself and started my own LLC and all that, which was a great experience. But I think their old school mentality and really teaching me that networking is super important. And um, they're very old school saying, I can hear my dad saying it now. It's not about who you know. I mean, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So um, he's 100% Italian man. I mean, you could pull him out a Sopranos poster. He is the cliche, let me tell you. So I've learned a lot from them. Super
Yeah.
conservative, but also super. They're not. They love risk. Let me put it that way. Like they're conservative, yet they know when to strike. So
Hmm.
growing up in that environment certainly helped me make educated choices, but also know when I gotta roll the dice and just go for it and be all in. So it's a really great balance, and I feel like that certainly helped prepare me to be who I am today and be able to handle running a business. So
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely, obviously your parents are always going to encourage you to take the safe track in terms of making sure you have a backup plan and making sure you've done,
yep,
all of the things that you can do to have an education, to fall back on. But that's, I feel like, they came over here, you had said, from Italy with the winery experience, the winemaking experience, but they had to start from scratch.
yep. Oh yeah, I mean they were making wine in the basement, so that's like as it in the ground that it gets. So they're definitely old school. Didn't have all the bells and whistles that we have today to make a polished bottle of wine and all the science behind it. So that's kind of where my formal education comes from. But
Yeah.
I also know how to make a good bottle of wine just from intuition. So it's been great to have both, but certainly it's nice to have all the professional resources to make it really well rounded and polished so we can have wines to scale in the market. So
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I ask everyone, Marissa, do you have a favorite fairy tale?
it's kind of funny, and I'm gonna be very real with you right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing. When I was little, I loved Snow White because I was so fascinated with the dwarves mining gems out of the cave. Like I was just mesmerized from it. So I always loved Snow White growing up because I loved shiny, expensive things, I guess. So even when I was
Well,
5 years
maybe, or
old,
maybe you love the fact that they were discovering something sparkly and beautiful in dark caves. There was probably a reason you were drawn to that.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I loved anything like that. So that was the reason why I love Snow White. But I mean, I think Snow White's a classic and definitely something I'll cherish. And I was definitely obsessed with when I was little. But I don't
I love that
really,
it wasn't because of the fairy tale princess, though. It was those
no,
hardworking, all the seven dwarves
exactly,
mining the
exactly.
gems. That's awesome. So,
Kind of embarrassing, but hey, whatever.
yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's fun and interesting. How would you finish the sentence to find your fairy tale? We've touched on a lot of things in terms of sort of pushing the naysayers aside and coming up with a plan and feeling it in your bones. Like you don't want to be regretting it at age 80. But if you could boil it down to a simple sentiment, to find your fairy tale, you need to.
Create your own reality. I mean, you can't wait for someone to scoop you up and open all these doors and um, teach you how to figure out how to make your dreams come true. You sincerely need to be your own driver and you need to figure out how to make it happen. Um, no one's going to work as hard as you to achieve your dreams. And I think if you really have a genuine outlook on making things happen, you're going to find someone that is going to want to help take you there. And I'm sincerely always answering questions in my DMs and giving people the real truth and the resources and leading them down the right path. So I think I really encourage anyone watching, just reach out, but be genuine about it because a lot of people could tell if you're just trying to pull a fast one. It's all about that energy you're giving. So if it's really sincere, you're certainly going to get a lot of positive reinforcement and people wanting to help you.
That's so true. Marissa, here's to you. And I can't wait
Thank
to try some
you.
RedHead wine. And thank you so much for spending some time with us on Find Your Fairy Tale. We'll check back in, along the way. Hopefully we can keep in touch. and to see how you're growing your business, growing your dreams.
Thank
And
you.
we'll be sharing some of the highlights of our conversation and everybody's conversations over the last couple months that we've been doing this over the month of December. So those will be coming your way as well.
Awesome. I'll definitely share. And I really appreciate you having me, and all your questions were super interesting. And it's really nice. I don't get to do this very often, go live and just kind of talk about the experience. And it's really great to, put that out there, and hopefully, someone watching learn something, and maybe will be able to turn their dreams into reality and find their fairy tale, I guess, since is the theme
Yes,
of
and find their fairy
the
tale.
the
And you
chat.
probably
So,
have to pitch your product, hard, and you are selling your dream. But at the end of
yep,
the day, what's fueling it is a passion. And that's what I love to talk to everybody about, because that's what we all share in common. For someone it might be, their book, for someone it might be their business, for someone it might be wine. But at the end of the day,
absolutely.
we all are pushing to get our happily ever after every day.
Couldn't agree more.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks again for having me. Have a good one.
You got it. Good night, everybody. We'll see you soon.